let's look into what DevOps Institute talks about in the foundation course. I'm sorry if there's a flickering going on. I've got a dodgy light bulb above me, which I thought I'd fixed, and then I thought it had just broken, and now it can't decide whether it's fixed or not. And it's not just the light bulb, it's actually the transformer behind it. So it's going to take me a lot of work to change it. So I didn't get it done beforehand. So apologies if it's distracting. I hope it's not. So the DevOps values that the DevOps Institute Foundation course talks about rely on something that is pretty well accepted across the DevOps community, and it's called CALMS, C-A-L-M-S, standing for 5 elements: culture, automation, lean, measurement, sharing. So culture, critical. If people aren't committed to it, if the way you're proposing to work doesn't fit in with the way people like to work, like to do things in the organization, then it is not going to work. And it can absolutely destroy any initiative. Peter Drucker, the famous business psychologist guy, said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Doesn't matter how carefully you've worked out what you think is a good idea. If it doesn't fit the way your people believe and work, then it is not going to happen. Now, I don't know whether your culture is local, whether you work in a multinational organization. If you do, you will realize that one of the challenges is getting something that works across different cultures, and people do work in different ways. There is definitely a noticeable shift in attitudes, and I've worked across many countries over the years. As you move south from the north of Europe, there is a different culture. By the time you get to the Mediterranean, things are somewhat more laid back, and people don't turn up on time. You'll tell by the name and the accent and the language that I'm from the UK, but I'm living in Portugal these days, and there is definitely a different culture. And that reflects in the work environment as well. I'm married to a Brazilian, and Brazilian culture and attitude professionally is very different, and you have to be very careful about trying to take some ideas and putting them into that culture. So culture is at the top, deliberately, first thing we mention. Automation, as I said, tried to say with those 2 pictures in the last slide, it is essential. You take away the spears from the Stone Age people, you take away the pens or pencils or notepads from 21st century people, and they cannot do their job. We must have the appropriate degree of automation to make this work. It's not enough on its own, but you cannot do without it. It's what Hertzberg called a hygiene factor. It doesn't deliver on its own, but you cannot manage without it. The CALMS approach talks about lean, getting things moving, not doing what you don't need to do. And I'm going to emphasize that a little more on the slide that's coming up later. But it specifically calls out lean as maximizing the number of things that you don't do. So understand what's necessary, do that. So that's right up front. Measurement. And you might think that if you're going to empower a team to go off and do things on their own without needing to come to management every time to ask for everything, that it would be less important to measure them. But it's actually critical that we measure, because if we don't measure, we don't know if we're getting better or worse. And there's no standing still in the world any longer. So if you aren't getting better, you're getting worse. And you need to know that. You need to be able to show that you're getting better. And we have to do that through appropriate measurement. And measurement gives us something that we can act upon. It gives us useful justifications and indications and prioritization for which things we should do next and which things we should perhaps leave a little longer. So measurement is something that triggers a response. So it's very important that we do appropriate measurement. Absolutely not mandating some of the approaches I've seen in IT over the years, and we measure everything because we can. So beware of that traditional IT approach, if you like, of I measure things because I can. I then create data because I've measured it. I then write reports based on the data because I've got it. And then I try and tell everybody that these reports are important and valuable because I created them. We should be going the other way around. We should be saying, what is it I need information on to help me decide what to do or whether we're doing the right things? Now, having understood what I need, what information is necessary to create those reports? And now I know what information is necessary, what data do I need to collect to create that information? And now what do I need to actually measure, or what measuring techniques do I need to put in place to capture that data? So measurement is best done by understanding what end result you need and then working out how to build it. There has been a tradition in IT in the last 50 years of measuring things because you can, and that's not what we mean here. We mean measuring useful things, and that implies all the work that goes on to determine what would be useful. And sharing things, sharing knowledge, sharing responsibility, sharing commitments, doing things together. A problem shared is a problem halved, as my grandmother would have said. Sharing ideas with other people. And one of the key elements of the real ultimate goal about DevOps that hinges on this. Let me put it this way. If you go to a CIO and DevOps organization, and if they can answer the question, which is your best DevOps team, then they aren't doing it right. Because what you want is everybody to share good ideas with each other. And that really hinges back a bit of an overlap with measurement in terms of shared goals and shared targets. You want people to share their good ideas. And that doesn't work if you're going to have people competing with each other. And it's a big mind shift in many organizations to be able to say, no, you got a great idea. I want you to tell everybody else about it so that they look good as well. Oh, there's a strange black box appearing on my screen. I don't know if it's meaningful. I'll let Nikolai worry about that. So sharing is important. Just give you the example. I worked once, we were doing some training courses and running some games for a credit card company. I will not name them. And walking to the training room, we walked through their operational area. And this is not IT operations. This is people trying to persuade ordinary guys out there to take a credit card. And as we were walking through, one of the desks had a large stuffed donkey on it. And so my colleague said, is that the team mascot? And they hushed her up, moved her away and said, no, it's the team donkey. She said, I can see it's a donkey. And no, not the stuffed toy. The person whose desk it's on is the team donkey. They're the person who sold the least cards last month. So they have to have the donkey on their desk to remind themselves that they were the worst. And then that'll motivate them to be better next month. No, it didn't. And they transformed the company. But that kind of attitude generates an absence of sharing. So if you're the person with the donkey on your desk and you come up with a really clever idea to get people to take credit cards from you, you're going to keep that idea to yourself because you're going to get rid of the donkey. and it's going to be on someone else's desk next week, and you can relax. So you keep this good idea to yourself, and you sell more cards, but nobody else changes. If it's your organization, your company, you want that person to go around everyone else and say, I've had this really great idea and I've tried it out and it really works, and you should try it as well. And then we'll all sell lots more cards, and the company will become much richer, and we all get bigger bonuses. You want them to share their good ideas. So sharing rests upon, if you like, common targets and a team concept. And we're going to look at that in a moment in some more detail. So what's interesting about these is that behind the word, there is actually a lot of baggage and requirement. It's not just measurement. Let's go and measure some things. It's not sharing. Oh, let's have a meeting every month and tell people what we're doing. There's a lot going on behind it. And just to emphasize what I said about taking these ideas and using them, this was the conventional DevOps calms approach. But there's a guy called Rob England, who is one of the 4 or 5 cleverest people I know, that I've worked with or spoken to over the last 40 or 50 years. He's a New Zealander, and his wife, who's Vietnamese, is another one of those 5. But he's taken calms and he's turned it into culture, automation, flow, feedback, and sharing. And he thinks that it's not just about lean. It's not just about taking out things that don't matter. It's about getting things to move through the organization. So he's upgraded that to flow. Measurement, it's not just enough to measurement. We have to send it to the right people and they have to act on it. So his version of calms is CAFS. Doesn't run quite as well. But culture, automation, flow, feedback, and sharing. It's a good entry on what was then the IT Skeptic website when he did it. But I put it there just to show you that everything we're talking about here is a starting point, and you can make it better for you if you work on it, or get your colleagues and your collaborators and your suppliers and your customers to work on it with you. How do we make this good for us? So that's what I put that picture in. And don't worry about the little star in the top right-hand corner. That's just to tell me that this slide got a build on it. Otherwise, I get myself confused.